Today on the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, we're covering CVE 2026-48558, today's number 10 out of the top 10 most urgent CVEs on our ranked list. And even at number 10, this one earns attention. It is a perfect 10.0 critical vulnerability, and it is already on CISA's known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. The affected product is SimpleHelp, a remote support and remote access platform. The human stake is straightforward. In a vulnerable setup, an unauthenticated remote attacker may be able to turn a forged login token into a fully authenticated technician session. That is not a theoretical scoring quirk. For remote support software, technician access can sit very close to the systems defenders care about most. Here's what the vulnerability is. The NVD description says SimpleHelp versions 5.5.15 and prior, and 6.0 pre-release versions contain an authentication bypass vulnerability in the OIDC authentication flow. OIDC, or OpenID Connect, is commonly used to let an identity provider handle login. The critical detail is that when OIDC authentication is configured, identity tokens submitted during login are accepted without verifying their cryptographic signature. That maps to CVE-2026-48558, improper verification of cryptographic signature. In plain English, the system is supposed to check that a token was genuinely signed by a trusted authority and has not been forged or altered. If that check is missing, the token can no longer be trusted as proof of identity. Verdict: this is a perfect 10 because authentication can be bypassed remotely without credentials and without needing a user to click or approve anything. The CVSS vector starts with network attack vector, low complexity, no privileges required, and no user interaction. That combination is what makes defenders uncomfortable. Exposure can be broad, and the attacker does not need an existing foothold inside the application. The second score driver is impact. The vector rates confidentiality, integrity, and availability as high, with scope changed. We do not need to recite every metric to understand the point. If the vulnerable OIDC path is reachable and configured, the flaw can cross a trust boundary and result in a powerful authenticated technician context. The real-world danger is why this CVE made the daily ranked list at all. CISA CVE status is true, which means it is in the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. For prioritization, that matters more than a scary theoretical description alone. CVE is a signal that defenders should treat this as an active risk item, not just another critical CVE waiting for a quarterly maintenance window. The EPSS percentile provided here is 0.63429. So it is not the only signal driving urgency, but our channel ranks by real exploitation signal, CISA CVE, first EPSS, and CVSS together. And in this case the mix is clear: perfect severity, authentication bypass, no interaction, and known exploitation status. To check whether you are affected, start with inventory. Identify any SimpleHelp deployment you operate, including internet-facing and internally reachable systems. Then confirm whether OIDC authentication is configured, because the described bypass is specifically in the OIDC authentication flow. The NVD description names SimpleHelp versions 5.5.15 and prior, plus 6.0 pre-release versions, but use the vendor's security update and release information as the authority for exact version status and remediation guidance. Also review authentication and technician session activity around your SimpleHelp environment. You are looking defensively for unexpected technician sessions, unfamiliar identity claims, unusual login timing, or authentication events that do not line up with your identity provider records. Do not assume MFA alone removes the risk, because the description says some configurations may allow MFA bypass. What should defenders do now? First, follow SimpleHelp's security update and release guidance, and update affected systems as a priority. Because this is CISA CVE listed and rated 10.0 critical, it belongs ahead of normal backlog items. If you cannot update immediately, reduce exposure while you work. Restrict access to the SimpleHelp service where possible. Evaluate whether OIDC can be temporarily disabled or isolated in your environment. And limit technician access to trusted networks or administrative paths. After patching, verify the OIDC configuration, trusted issuer, expected client settings, and identity provider integration should all match your intended design. Finally, review active sessions and technician accounts. Consider terminating suspicious sessions, checking recent privileged actions, and tightening monitoring around future technician logins. To recap, CVE 2026-48558 is a SimpleHelp OIDC authentication bypass caused by missing cryptographic signature verification on login identity tokens. In a vulnerable configuration, a remote unauthenticated attacker may obtain a fully authenticated technician session, and some configurations may also bypass multi-factor authentication. It is a perfect 10.0, and it is on CISA-KEV, so treat it as an Act Now patching item. This is the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal every day. Subscribe for tomorrow's list, and check the full ranked report linked in the description.